Expeditions podcast. Hey everyone out there in podcast world, how are you all going? This is Aaron Harvey. Welcome back. This is the Inner Expeditions podcast. Today for episode 22, I've got some really cool guys from over in Houston, Texas. They've got a podcast called Deep MCs, and I'm going to be joined with the guys from there, Shepard, Woodson and Aaron Hinkston, who are just great guys, and they've started a show to share their journey and their backgrounds and how they are navigating through the new norm that we kind of discuss. Good friends, they met in Houston, Texas, where they're now doing their show. Different backgrounds, but also super close guys, and they've got life experiences that they both bring to the table in their podcast to have some pretty open and honest and powerful discussions. So we're going to get into that real soon, but before we do, just letting you kind of know that the guys are going to roughly chat about upbringings and what you learn from your parents, father figures, either being there, not being there, and what you learn from them directly or indirectly. It's a really interesting episode, and we're going to also sort of discuss how you either take that baggage or leave it, and what you carry from those learnings into the new world that we are all seem to be trying to navigate through. So look, super excited about this one. It's been coming for a while. Shepard's, he's got one of the best voices in the game. It's so smooth and calming. And then Aaron's just got this real passion and drive as well, which I'm sure you will agree as you listen. But look, that's pretty much it. That's what we got coming up. Can't wait to share it. So without too much more going on, let's take a listen. Just hit it, so we're good to go, guys. Hey, look, thanks for coming on. I've been getting ready all day and all week for you guys to come on, and it's just so great to have some guys over there in the States to represent on the show for the first time.
No, we're glad to be here. We're ready to get this show on the road.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Oh man, absolutely. It's been a good learning experience for me, and listening to your guys' show, listening to what you guys are about, and living in Houston, Texas. I mean, there's a lot happening over there at the moment. It's got a lot of hype, I suppose, with a lot of big tech companies moving to Texas for, the tax benefits and all that kind of stuff. How's it been finding it for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things, I'm in real estate. So it's definitely been a huge kind of influx of people from the East Coast, West Coast, and even international. I mean, crazy thing, I put in an offer yesterday on a home, for a family, and they have another offer already on the home, sight unseen, from someone in Europe. So it's crazy, the amount of people that are flowing into Houston, Texas, for the benefits, like you said. So,
it's. I mean, we're having a similar thing where we are, but I think it's kind of COVID driven, where people are realizing that they don't have to live in the city anymore, and they can do their job from home, and that pretty much means they can do it from anywhere, right? So,
right.
The real estate in our town is just going through the roof at the moment, and people that have been considering leaving town for, it's their plan to leave town and head to the cooler climates, and now just selling up and cashing in, and people are buying them from the eastern states just online without even looking at the house. So
Right.
No tech giants though. I don't think Tesla or Apple are going to be moving over anytime soon, but yeah.
You never know. I mean, you guys have such a vast, untouched landscape over there, that wide space, that land has a value. So keep your fingers crossed they stay out, because they bring problems, but
we're going through it now. So my wife's just left. We're having our third baby. So the problem is up here. Congrats. Yeah, thanks guys. Yeah. But the issue we're having is that up here, there's no section, there's no part of the hospital to have kids. So she's had to leave a month early to go. I think she's gone 1,600 kilometers south to get ready. And then I'm at home with my eldest daughter for another 3 weeks while we have to sort of go to work and school and get ready. But Yeah, it's one of those things.
Crazy.
But yeah, it's the only part of Australia where you can swim with whale sharks, and there's beautiful marine life here where it's this remote sort of quite desert town, but it's got such a beautiful offerings out offshore and stuff like that.
No, it sounds
great,
amazing, man. The only thing offshore over here is oil rigs.
Yeah, we've got a few of them too. Unfortunately, there's a few of them out. If you spot your binoculars a bit further out to sea, you can see them. But it's one of those things. I guess it's slowly creeping in everywhere.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the landscape.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about you guys, because I know you guys aren't originally from Texas, right? So you've moved to Texas for whatever reasons. What brought you to Texas from, I think, like Shepard, you're from Louisiana, right?
I'm from Louisiana. I'm the Louisiana boy. He's the California boy.
California, yeah. So I think they're the two biggest states moving to Texas when I was sort of doing a bit of research, they're saying. So
we just got here early.
Yeah.
we
saw it coming early and got there before the peak, yeah.
Yeah, I've been here since 2001. I graduated and then moved here for architecture, actually. Got a job because I couldn't find what I wanted to do in architecture. And so continued to try to build, my experience and those kind of things to get back into architecture. But it just never happened. So I stayed doing what I was doing at IKEA Home Furnishings, where I met Shepard. Yeah. And that's where we, that's where this was birthed, actually, at IKEA. But that was many years ago. And so from IKEA to now, I'm a full-time real estate agent, which was also part of the long-term dream and goal. I have a family. I'm also expecting.
Congratulations to you.
In March. And so and I have a 10-year-old. We have a 10-year-old. So.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it seems to have a lot going for it, Texas. What about you, Shepard? What drew you here?
I don't know. Running from problems.
Yeah.
I guess ultimately that's what it boils down to, right? I mean, I've moved all over the states, if you will. I mean, obviously I'm from California, forever be, a California boy, but, I've done California, I've done Hawaii, I've done small stint, in Vegas, I've done Florida, and I came here, and I came here living in my car out of all things, so it just was one of those situations where you're always running from problems. I didn't realize it at the time, but you're trying to figure out kind of what's wrong with you, kind of reset, the further away from home I am, the more comfortable I was. So, I wouldn't say that there's a draw as, a financial thing or a work benefit, but just dealing with issues. It's kind of what brought me here. And I've been here since 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It seems pretty cool. Like, I know things are off the cards with travel at the moment, but there seems to be a pretty good culture in Texas and stuff as well. I know it's well known for barbecuing and ribs and all that kind of stuff. But, I looked at Austin, Texas, and there seems to be a huge movement for like food trucks and stuff there. It seems like a pretty rad place to come and check out. Now, it's definitely on my radar if we ever get to make it over there.
Yeah, for sure. A Texas tour would do you well.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure, man. You have a place to stay if you ever come through. So there you go.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'll check you out on that for sure. Yeah, well, hopefully once things lift and we can go away, I definitely want to travel more and show the kids more parts of the world. Definitely.
Of course.
Yeah, no, I've been wanting to go to Australia for some time, but from everything that I've seen, you guys are very strict about who you let in. You do a lot of background check, a lot of research.
Yeah, they are at the moment, and I think while we're living in Western Australia, it's probably even stricter again because we've been so lucky to keep the COVID numbers here at a very low minimum compared to the eastern states or the rest of the world. But I know Victoria and New South Wales have probably had it really bad lately, but even then it's on a minor scale compared to what you guys have had in the States and Europe and all these other places. It just seems like the world's on fire at the moment, hey?
Yeah.
I mean, the States, Texas, the door's wide open. So we're traveling.
Yeah. we're doing whatever.
We're doing whatever, right? And so,
well, it's kind of why I wanted to talk, because I know you guys have got your podcast with your Deep MC's podcast. And it's been great. I've been listening to it today, and you talked about how Texas is just, they just kind of do whatever they want there and let it run free. And it's wide open for business right there at the moment by the sounds of it. And maybe that's why everyone's going there.
Completely.
Yeah. It's crazy. It is the Wild West, but we're not in the West, Yeah. It's very interesting. How has COVID been for you? I mean, I know your numbers have been low, so life hasn't been too unchanged for you, but I mean, has there been any type of lockdown in your area at all, or how has that played into your life?
Yeah, we had a little bit at the start when things were really taking off out of China and it had come to Australia. And I think we went into lockdown even where we are up here for a couple of months, but that's been about it. And it was really bizarre because we're a high tourism town. A lot of people come here to swim with whale sharks and whales and just have these great marine interactions out on the reef we have here. But without anyone coming here, we had like the first 3 months of peak tourism season and there was no one here. Because, in the summertime, it gets quite hot up here and it keeps a lot of people away. So we do get the town back to ourselves a little bit over the hotter months. And to have Easter and, June, July with no one here, it was absurd. The locals were kind of loving it in a way, but the people with businesses were feeling it too pretty badly. But I mean, they quickly made that up once things opened up.
Gotcha. That's awesome. It's good to see the bounce back. I mean, over here with everything that's been going on, I mean, it's hit a lot of us really hard, and a lot of the news was on the COVID and the disease or the sickness, whatever you want to call it. And there was a really large neglect over the mental health aspect of a lot of people here. I mean, suicide rates were going through the roof, divorce rates through the roof, because everybody was kind of left alone with their problems.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of movement at first for a while. It was a big impact, and it's something that I think that we're going to be feeling and talking about for quite some time, just because so many lives were changed through that process. Mine included, everybody's.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice to kind of interact and talk with people who weren't as affected, and it's not just all stories of doom and gloom, if you will.
I mean, I'm just so grateful that no one that I know directly, in WA I don't know anyone that's had it or even suffered from it. I think over east, I'm not even sure if I know anyone over there that's caught the virus, but I mean, that's probably unheard of for other countries. We've been affected in ways through lockdown, but only for a very short amount of time. Mm-hmm. And the biggest issues we're having over here at the moment is the vaccination issue, where they're trying to encourage everyone to get vaccinated. So they want to open back up again for business, like Texas. And they're going to kind of accept that, hey, look, you've got to get ready to live with it because it's inevitable that it's going to eventually be everywhere. So there's a big issue at the moment with sort of people opposing the mandates and things like that as well.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
Yeah, well, sure. It's a hard one because you've got your anti-vaxxers, then you've got people that I wouldn't say they're anti-vaxxers, but they're not 100% sure they're happy to have the vaccine. And then there's a lot of people now with these, I guess, mandatory vaccinations. It's a moral thing as well. It's like, well, you can't just tell us that we have to have it or we don't have a job. So there's kind of like three fronts of a bit of backlash there.
Oh, so you all are dealing with the mandatory expectation from jobs as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Because that's become big here. My wife works in HR, and with that, I mean, a lot of larger companies are mandating, that their employees have to be vaccinated or, like you said, lose their job. So with what Shepard was saying, there's a lot of anxiety about the whole thing, So outside of, just dealing with the fallback from COVID, now, with your job and with your livelihood, now you're being forced into a situation that, you really don't have a choice with, or you have a choice, but it may be to separate yourself from a job that, is paying bills. So,
yeah. On top of that, you've got the anxiety of, are you going to get ill from
right.
COVID, your
Right.
family and friends going back into isolation and all those sorts of things. It's, it's you think it's been going on for nearly 2 years now, and there's not really a finish line in sight yet, I don't think.
Right. I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a long ways away from.
Yeah.
I think this is the new normal for us. At least how we go about and how we deal with things. It's interesting to see the shift though in it. I mean, I don't know if it's just people being exhausted. I mean, over here in the States, we had a lot of, we're going to do this, and then the next day we're going to do that, and then the next day, okay, well, we're going to do this again. And people were in a panic at first, but then it got to a point of yeah, they just said screw it. And now we're just all frustrated with how things are, and it's halfway done in a lot of ways and not done at all in others. And there is a lot of clashing because I think that people are just exhausted mentally. It's so taxing. And that's one of those things though too, that just kind of going back to, it's kind of frustrating because we are not spending nearly the amount of time that we need discussing the mental health aspects of things. People are changing. They're being more frustrated as they get exhausted, and it's affecting their lives. Not necessarily in the point. We had the suicides, we had the divorces, and all that stuff. That's not. I'm not saying that's not important, but people are not realizing how to deal.
Right.
They don't know how to deal with these issues because a lot of people, this is the first time they've ever had any real frustrations or struggles or feeling like they're caged or whatever the situation is, and they're just lashing out, however, or they don't know how to process how they feel. Yeah, it's interesting to see how much change there is in people, and how much these restrictions that are put upon us are changing our day-to-day action, right? Even when you're out now, everybody's hesitant or scared or angry. God forbid you cough in somebody's direction and now they want to shoot you because we're all about guns here in Texas, right? but no, I mean, it's just it's crazy, and I think that we need to have a bigger spotlight and more conversation just around dealing with our own mental aspects, for sure.
Yeah. I think from what I've seen over here, it's definitely growing a little bit, and it's a hard one for Australian guys. And I know you spoke about it on other shows with Matt Grant and guys like that. It's a cultural thing that you just don't speak about it. It's almost like an unmanly thing, but as more and more people are going through it, they're realizing it's okay to bring it to the limelight and to reach out and to make it public if they're struggling. But it's not just a thing for guys as well. It's everyone's in the same boat together.
Yeah, it was interesting to have that with Matt, right? And as we're branching out and getting into different countries, if you will, being able to hear your guys' reality over what the perception is, right? Because like when I was telling him, like, for me, and Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, the view of Australia and America, I mean, I guess it's kind of like, people, when you ask people outside the country, like, what do you think of not California, of America? Generally, they think it's either California. They'll give you a description of that. They'll give you a description of New York, or they'll give you like a description of Texas. Yeah. Like, that's what they think America is, right? So for us, Australia, it's Chris Hemsworth and, surf and parties and drugs and nonstop fun, and you don't hear the dark side. You don't hear the regular daily life of someone, that's always been there, has never left, or whatever the situation is. So yeah, to kind of hear that you guys do have those issues over there. I mean, for me, it was kind of eye-opening because I'm like, really? Like, that's just, you don't picture that ever,
Yeah.
You know, it's just not something that you ever think about, at least on this side of the pond, if you will.
No, it is. I think it's a handed down generational thing that you know, you kind of go hard at whatever you do. If you play sport or if you work hard, and then afterwards you might, you know, celebrate hard. You know, you definitely, you know, have a good time, and it's a big cultural thing for that as far as drinking goes. And I was in that scene through my 20s, and that's what a lot of relationships with people were based on, was the fact that, you know, that you had good times together. But as I grew into my 30s and kind of phased out of that as I started having kids and looking at other aspects of my life, that I wanted to form relationships that weren't just based on good times, you know, like what else are our friendships if it's not that? Like what do we have in common? And started searching for, I guess, more meaningful relationships and deeper relationships. And then everything I went through with, you know, anxiety and sort of rebuilding from there, it just you know, I sort of definitely opened my eyes to other ways of being and existing in the country as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's definitely become more important. I mean, it's funny you say that, because it's become more important for me, you know, as I grow older, that, you know, not only deep meaningful conversations, but deep meaningful relationships are become more and more important. Is because through situations like this, right? Through situations like COVID, where life changes on a dime, and your norm is completely thrown up into the air and then has to come down in pieces, and you have to put it back together. It's so much more important for us to be able to have, you know, individuals that we can come to, that we can, you know, at least share a portion of our fear or doubt or, you know, anxiety with, and say, hey, you know, and realize that you're still human in the situation, right? That you're not on the island by yourself. And for me, this podcast has been that. It has been our opportunity. I don't even know if Shepard knows, but my opportunity to be able to come to, you know, every 2 weeks and come sit down and have a conversation where he and I just kind of interact. It helps, you know, in the days to come, where it was just an opportunity for me just to kind of, you know, put aside the rest of the day, you know, and just sit down and have a conversation. And so I think it's important that you have these moments where you can just sit down and have a conversation with someone and go back and forth, not necessarily even have to agree, but
No,
that you can get your thoughts and you can get your explanation out there and hopefully be heard.
and just get some feelings out there. I think a big one for me was just being honest with myself and breaking down all the barriers that I'd put up to protect yourself, to, you know, to not show that you were struggling.
Yeah.
And I found once you can break down that barrier and be honest with yourself, you're kind of exposed, but how much worse could it be after that? So then you can rebuild in a positive way without those barriers and the lies and all the things you put up to protect yourself. You know, they're gone, and you can rebuild in such a positive way. It's a great tool. I'm so grateful that I went through that sort of process. You know,
What would you say when you talk about, you know, that process and everything else? Like, what would you say was the breaking point, or where the needle shifted for you specifically? I mean, I know, like, you know, we have these moments of revelation with things where
yeah.
we make those changes, but like, what do you feel it was that drove that change for you?
I think luckily at the time for me, I had lost a significant amount of weight. I'd been running a lot, and I'd gained some confidence and a few tools in my armor to give me confidence to take some new challenges on. But I was working away from my family, and I was working away for 12 days at a time, working in the mining industry. Inland's a big sector of our resources in Western Australia. So I think they got to a point there where I just couldn't do that anymore, and it broke me. So I had to walk away, and immediately things started changing. But it did take me a good year or two to rebuild from that. And I remember like steps along the way where I just remember having these breakthrough moments of, you know, self-forgiveness and getting my confidence back, and all of those things where I was just not living on other people's terms or living in a way that I thought other people were expecting me to. I just took control of that and decided to get both hands back on the wheel myself and trust my own instincts and live my way instead of, what I thought I had to do to impress other people.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I mean, do you find yourself, I mean, I guess anxiety never goes away. I mean, do you find yourself still struggling, even though you're going through this process, you've had these breakthroughs, you're doing the podcast, you're talking to people, you're learning from people. I mean, do you find yourself still struggling to the same level that you were before, or do you feel it's more manageable? Or
it's good now. I guess if you could describe it, then I felt like I was just in a big black hole, trying to climb out. I was on the bottom for a while, and getting my confidence back step by step was just pulling me out. And it's always going to be there in a way because you take on new challenges. I think I've let the fear fall away. And that's when I decided I wanted to start looking at doing a podcast to try and help people and put that message out there for people. So letting go of the fear was one thing. And then once I had done that, just having the confidence to try new things, doing podcasting and moving forward. And there's always that anxiety with, are people going to like the podcast? You might have anxiety about people are not going to listen to me, and I might not be that popular. Like I'm a relative unheard of guy starting this show, but you've just got to let that shit go and just go forwards with it. I mean, it's always going to be there, and it'll stop you if you let it. But if you can fight through that and realize it's just all a part of the process and keep moving forward regardless, it kind of it sort of dwindles away, I guess. Because I know you've been through a lot, Shepard, with your depression and stuff like that. How do you find, is that a major driving factor for starting the show, or was it something that's just gone on, or what were the factors that kind of, with your depression, how are you dealing with that, and how do you sort of, what's the show doing for you, I guess, to help manage that?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I suck at dealing with my depression. Yeah. It's still something that plagues me pretty severe in a lot of ways with a lot of things. The podcast though definitely has helped. It's been a tool to kind of be able to get things out there. For me, I've never been a person that shares a lot. I do find that it's easy to share a little more in this platform because it's a little more solitary. It's a little more of a comfort zone because there's not a abundance of people staring at me saying, what is that story, what are you trying to say, what are you doing, whatever. So I mean, there is that, and it does for sure help in a lot of ways, and it does get a little bit easier, not a lot, but a little bit easier to be able to get on here and just share the stories and share the events of things that have happened. But no, it is a daily struggle for sure, to kind of keep things together. And I'm still in the process of learning how to deal with those things. It's not really, I don't know, like I'm still learning, and I'm hoping that people can see and can kind of grow with me. I don't have the answers for sure. I never have. And I'm kind of searching for them as we go through this whole process, which is also interesting too, because, I hear you speak and I hear the things you're saying. And it's like it sounds like you have it well and put together, right? Like you figured it out, and it's interesting too, as I go through, I'm learning a little bit more. So I am figuring some things out, and then I can identify when I see people or I speak with them, I see that they haven't got to that breakthrough point yet, and I feel so bad. I feel so bad for them because it's just like I don't want to say it's denial per se, because they don't know, but it's very clear, like they're hurting, or, they've lost confidence, or they haven't figured life out for them in that moment. And there's just so much chaos for them. it sucks, man. It hurts. And that's also kind of, why like I wanted to kind of put this out there, because if there's people around me that I can physically see that are dealing with these things, then I know that there's somebody out there somewhere that's also dealing with those same things, they don't have a voice, or they don't have someone that can say, you're not alone. Right. And we're going to work through this thing together, if you will. So I don't know. I don't know if that quite answers your
No, it's good. And
question, but
you guys are doing such a great thing because, I mean, you're saying you suck at it and you struggle with it, but, you're on a platform, you're doing so well with it, and just being open and recognizing it and sharing it with people. I mean, you got no idea how many people that's going to stick with. It's going to land with someone, and it's going to land with the people that need it, and it's going to give them something. It's such a great thing. And I don't think you're sucking at it at all. I think you're doing such a great job. You're talking about it and you're putting it out there for people, and it's great, man. Like, just don't stop. Like, just keep going. And it might feel like you're going nowhere sometimes. And I know, being on Instagram and comparing yourself, it's not a great thing to be doing. But I mean, Instagram's also it's a free advertising tool, so I'm going to use it.
yeah.
And I'm the worst. Sometimes I'll post stuff and you sit there and wait to see how many likes you're getting and all those things. But at the end of the day, it's just a tool. I'm doing this. The real reason I'm doing this isn't for likes on Instagram. It's to know that if someone hears what I'm saying and they get this message and they're going through a hard time too, then they know they're not doing it alone, and you can get out. So it's what drives me, and it's what keeps me going in this. And I'm so grateful that it's that I'm still doing it, and people message and they let you know that it's hitting home with them and they're getting something out of it, and then that's why I'm doing it, and that's why I'm going to keep doing it.
No, that's awesome, man, and I appreciate the kind words that you say. Mentally, I don't believe it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but
Well,
that's
it starts with you, man. Like
yeah.
I think the first person you need to be kind to and to give that love to is yourself before you can do it to other people. So it's just all about putting that time in for yourself and giving yourself those breaks. My wife's a photographer as well, and she's horrible at taking compliments and stuff like that. She'll always take a compliment and turn it into a negative to say something about herself to try to play it down. And it's like, man, you got to take that on board. Like, take a compliment, like put it in here and hold on to it and celebrate the wins, celebrate the successes. Like, it's that stuff to be celebrated. You have a small bit of feedback from someone, or something goes really well, you get a good message or a good conversation with someone, man, hold on to that stuff. Like, put it in there and lock it away. That's stuff to be happy about. That's stuff to celebrate.
No, that's it's interesting that you say that. So I mean, for me, that's something that I'm terrible at. Growing, I feel like it stems from growing up. Growing up, it was always a level of inadequacy with a lot of things, right? Obviously, I father figure wasn't really around. Go figure, American Black life, right? No dad, but was just one of those situations where growing up, and especially in the cities and stuff like that, like my family were very good at sports. They were very good at speaking. They were very good at just being people, but they were plagued with a lot of demons, a lot of drug problems, a lot of alcohol problems, things like that. That kind of just threw them all off track. But growing up, everybody always knew them for the good. And so it was always, oh yeah, you're doing this, but your dad did it better, or your uncle did it better, or whatever. It didn't matter how good I was, somebody else always did it better. Right.
Yeah, living in that
And
shadow.
yeah, you live in that for a long period of time. And so like, even now, like I hate compliments. I hate them. For me, I'm very self-critical, and I know I am, but like there's this like fury and fire in me to always want things to be better. And so in a lot of situations I come across as an asshole or annoying because I'm always seeking that perfection. But then I feel bad because I'm like, I don't know, like maybe I shouldn't say this because I don't want people to think that, I'm being nitpicky or I'm just being an ass or whatever the situation is. And I don't know, but when I do stuff and I do put stuff out and I get those compliments, like they don't feel real and they make me cringe. And like, I was like, okay, well, that's great. Well, let's move on. Like, I don't want them,
Yeah.
you know, I don't
Yeah.
like, and it is very hard to, uh, accept something or hear something nice about myself. But then I also beat myself up because like I don't want it, like I don't want the person to think that I don't appreciate it
Yeah.
or
Don't
that,
want it to be that way.
I'm being cocky or whatever. Like, oh, like I got, like, I don't know. I don't know how to take it. It's the same thing with like gifts, right? Like I never got a lot of gifts. So like, I don't know how to accept something. Like I always feel like I need to give something when I get something.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like I just don't like good things happening for or to me. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
Yeah. It's almost like you feel like you almost don't deserve it.
For sure. Like it doesn't feel deserved. Or if I do something and they say, oh man, that's awesome. Like I don't view it as being that. Like it's just this. And these are how many things that are wrong with it still.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's a hard one. And, you know, they talk about passed down behaviors and learned behaviors and what you learn from your parents, either if it's directly or indirectly, because a great dad can teach you amazing things and how to be a great person, yet you live in their shadow. Yet a really bad dad won't really teach you a lot directly, but all you learn from them is that you don't want to be like them. So whether they know it or not, or you know it or not, you are learning. It just depends on good or bad, directly or indirectly. You know what I mean? It's that funny thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean I would say it's interesting how that works, but I've also had, like, you talk about, like, you know, you have a bad dad, you don't want to be like them. Like I've also found throughout my life that like I try so hard to not be them,
Yeah.
I end up doing the same thing in a different way.
What
You
gives,
know?
right?
Yeah, it's just how do you manage that, right? Like how do you work through that? I don't.
I had a really great conversation with a lady one night, and it was just a random conversation out of nowhere. And I'd been training a lot, and I had a trouble with my knee. I think it was one of my first knee injuries when I sort of started running, because I only really picked up running in my late 30s, you know. And I was trying to work through it without having surgery, and I thought, like, I really want to work towards not having surgery, you know, because I hate surgery. And she stopped me in my tracks and she said, "Don't ever hate something, because when you hate it, you draw it closer to you." Do you know what I mean? You put so much energy into it. It's like you grab it and pull it in. You know, it's like a real attachment. So I just remember from that day, like I just, you know, didn't label or didn't put hate towards things. It's like, okay, I might not like it, and then it would just pass me by, rather than, you know, put that really strong attachment to it. And so, like you say, you almost bring it in more because of that feeling.
No, you do. It's funny how the world works in that way, right? You know, and I don't know. I've always said that you have these people that are these motivational speakers or they whatever they are, right? And the stuff that they say really does have value, but they put it out there in such a cheesy way that people just write it off as
Yeah.
being, you know,
Yeah.
this fairy tale or this, you know, whatever hippie type thing. And it really is, like, those things really do affect your life in that way. You know, I don't know how we get that out there in a more palatable, cooler
Yeah,
way.
in a less, furry puppy dog advertising kind of way or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Still working on that process.
Yeah, I think we all are, you know, but that's what I love about podcasting and doing this, that it is more genuine and there's no agenda behind it. You know, there's no massive advertisers telling you what you can and can't say, and it's more real. And I enjoy that for the fact that I find it easier now saying things that are true feelings. You know, like they're gonna. It's easier for me to say these things because it's more genuine. You know, if I can open up, and I was terrible at opening up before. I was an incredibly closed book, but now when I don't type something, like, you know, these algorithms will say, you know, you need to post something every day. to please the algorithms and to get more likes. But for me, I'm not going to force myself to do that, to post something that's not genuine to please an algorithm. It goes back to that whole living by someone else's standards. It's like, I want to post when it feels right for me, because when I feel like posting something, it's going to come a lot easier and it's going to be real. So I'm kind of shying away from that a little bit, because I'd rather, almost have lesser followers or listeners, but know that the people that are listening, it's hitting home.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Aaron, tell me a story about you, man. Like, how did you get to? I mean, you guys already, I think, when you started on a journey, you have learnings and you go through something to be a more respectful, good person and a good being. Then, for me, it was obviously, I wanted to start podcasting for that reason, but I'd already been on a journey and then realized I wanted to do podcasting. How did that work for you, man?
I think the podcasting thing came up. It was Shepard's idea.
Yeah.
Honestly. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah. That sounds like a good idea. And it birthed out of us just having general conversation. We would come together talking about business, because we were working on other things together. Over several years, we were just working on different projects, and working on those different projects, we began to build a relationship that we would just sometimes just sit down and talk. Right. And those conversations then began to build and build and build, and we saw fruit in them. And so based on that fruit that we saw, then we was like, okay, hey, let's begin to share this with other people. And let's, not to get famous, but to have a conversation that was going to be different than what we were hearing, just out in the media. Something, two Black men, at different stages in life, who've grown up differently, but who can share in some similar experiences, right? And then be open and honest about the feedback and maybe help somebody else on the back end. And so it was important for us to do it. I mean, I grew up in a home, two parents, different than Shepard, but there were some similarities. I mean, I grew up in a 2-parent home, older sister. My dad was, he drank a lot, and was abusive, when we were younger. And so I went through that whole, you shared it. I went through that whole scenario of being everything that he wasn't, so I went to the extreme of who he was. And so, I didn't want to do this. And it began to affect long-term relationships for me. Is because when I was overly committed when I didn't need to be, because I felt that I needed to make sure I held on to everything that he didn't hold on to. So I held on to it very tightly. And there were some relationships that didn't suit me, that were long done, but I was still trying to resuscitate it, breathing life back into it.
Yeah.
And so I had to come to the realization in that. And it took years. It took years for me to do that, for me not to be the savior. I always wanted to find projects that I could rebuild or repair, but didn't take on the project of myself, rebuilding or repairing, the need to have to do that, the need to be needed, and all of those things. And so it's been a journey for me. Fatherhood actually really helped me to kind of shift that. Because there was a giving and then a response, that was genuine, that didn't have anything attached to it other than just, a genuine, honest response from, a toddler or a baby that you can't, it wasn't made up, right? It was genuine. And so that began to really shift my thought process and my movement. And even my thinking, man. And then over time, my dad and my parents are still together. They just celebrated 51 years of marriage. And my dad is getting older, and you start to see that Superman that was there before began to deteriorate a bit right before your eyes, right? And so you begin to go through the response of that. And how do you deal with that, with growing older and parents growing older? And then through the process, my older sister passed away. We were 8 years apart. She passed away. And I went into a depression after that. because there was a new normal that I never even anticipated, never expected to have to anticipate, right? She was going to see my kids grow. She was going to be the one, the auntie who was going to be there all of the life, right? And I built her into my long-term plan. And to see her not there, then you have to begin to shift. You have to begin to, what is the new normal? And you really have to create one, because there's no game plan. There's no book for that. And each person has to walk through that situation individually. Yes, we can have conversations, but like you said, you have to make up within your mind that I can't stay here.
Yeah.
Is there, I feel like there's more here. This wasn't the place for me to die. I'm not supposed to die here. And so, even today, I still deal with her birthdays. What's today? Her birthday is tomorrow,
Yeah.
and so this part of the year really begins to, I silently go through this part of the year, and my birthday is a week after hers. And so I just plow through this, the end of the year, with my head down, kind of, okay, let me just get through it. The holidays are coming and my son wants gifts and Thanksgiving is coming. And I still work on putting on this mask and kind of plowing through this last part of the year, even though it's been 8 years since she passed. Right.
Yeah. You're never going to forget that.
You never get over those kind of things. Right. And so it's definitely a journey of growth and a journey of development that I have to choose to make. Right. I have to choose to every day decide that I'm not going to sit in this place like I did a year ago. Even through COVID, I put on 35 pounds.
Wow.
Sitting around, right? And not being active and not being engaged and just kind of taking things as they came. And so, we're now even, doing something different about that, because physically I need to be at a certain place because it's going to help my mental capacity.
Yeah.
Right. And so all of those things have been part of my journey.
It's a huge game. It's a huge game to do. And, kudos to you guys for doing and keeping your head in the game. It's not easy. And you guys have had it so much tougher with COVID, than we have in Australia. And it's something that we don't get exposed to a lot of. You a lot of the time you only hear about what's happening in your own country. You might hear it at the start when it's all outbreaking and, places were going crazy. But it's kind of, like you say, it's become the norm now, and everyone's just been, COVID's kind of everywhere and we're just dealing with it. But, we don't know the long-term effects of people living with it where you guys are.
Right.
So,
crazy thing, and Shepard doesn't even know it. My dad has it now.
Wow.
And was just, he was in the hospital for a respiratory issue, not COVID related. And was in there for like 2 weeks, and so then had to go to what is it? He had to go to a rehabilitation place that was going to help him with his breathing, help him, be able to walk around, use the walker, those kind of things, and end up contracting COVID because he was in a shared room with someone else in the rehabilitation place. So it's an oxymoron, right? It's ironic that the place to rehab is where you're
going to get it. Yeah.
Is
he okay? Is he doing okay? Is he far along the process?
He's doing better. His numbers are increasing. He's not on the ventilator, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Even with all of the pre-existing conditions he has. So I'm grateful. My spirituality keeps me grounded in this.
Yeah.
And so, I'm really just grateful about, his journey. My mom is there and she's the mother hen. She's not, she's not letting anything get out of her, but, then, the weight of it is on her as well. So there's, having to battle through, hey, do I leave here and do I go to Louisiana, with a pregnant wife and 10-year-old son, it's a whole lot of things that are up in the air that I'm juggling at the moment, but, it's working out. It's working out.
I heard you guys you're doing your physical challenge with you guys and a few friends. That's just such a great initiative to start and to get some sort of ball rolling again, I guess. And even Shepard mentioned earlier how, for me, I kind of feel that it's not like you kind of get out and then you're free and you're on your way. For me, And a friend described it really well once, where she said, you kind of go around in circles. You do a full loop and you still experience similar emotions that you had before, but every time you just deal with them a little bit better, and you just keep moving along without letting them kind of affect you as much every time you go full circle, I guess. So,
right.
A physical game is such a huge part of that mental game as well.
Yeah, I'm locked in with Shepard over here.
Yeah.
He's breaking out of that T-shirt, and I'm just trying to,
it's good. I
get to
like
a
the pink. I like the pink. You guys talked. I heard you talking about it on an episode earlier today. I was listening to a few of your shows, and you were breaking out the pink. That's respect, man.
Yeah, trying to, man. Trying to. This has been interesting. I'm getting a lot of first. Yeah. I didn't know your dad had COVID, Aaron.
Yeah,
that's crazy, man. And I don't know, you're getting some exclusives here.
You got some exclusives
on this episode, man.
It's good. I'm loving it. This is great. This is exactly what I love it when stuff happens and you're like, yeah, this is exactly how I wanted it to go and better. That's the beauty of it sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and I shared it because I think some people. This was the first time it ever hit close to me.
Yeah,
I've had extended. Of course, we have social media, right? And we see someone that someone else knew that contracted it or whatever it is, right? But this was the first experience where it hit this close to home for me.
Yeah.
And fully vaccinated with the booster, and still, here we are. And so, it just brings up a lot of things that you just have to consider.
Yeah, it's that's where a lot of people are at now over here, because there is a lot of resistance to the vaccine. And there's a lot of really strong anti-vaxxers here. We're definitely not anti-vaxxers by any means. It's just, you put a lot of thought about some of the things that you put into your body, and you want to make sure that you're making the right choices for everyone. But people like to put everyone in boxes, and they like to categorize them so they can kind of make their own decisions about what they do and compare themselves. So it's a tough one. And then the other end is you got the whole moral thing where people are being forced, and they don't appreciate that either. So, but it's interesting to hear, it's one of the hardest things I'm finding through this pandemic is, where do you get the quality information from? Who do you believe and who don't you believe? I mean, people,
absolutely nobody.
People that really feel each way about the cause, the people that are really for it are going to be strongly, influenced, and the people at the other end are the same. But where do you find that middle ground where I can go, okay, I need some unbiased information to make my own decision? Where do you find that?
The crazy thing is I think we're that's what we had, the whistleblower with Facebook, right? Because whatever you look for, they're going to feed more of that to you.
That's right. The algorithm pleases you.
Yeah, the algorithm is just going to continue to drop that in your Google account into your, is going to put it before you, so that whatever you're believing, you're going to continue to believe, because it's going to be authenticated by whatever information they provide.
Yeah, it just wants to please you. It just, all it does is wants to please you and say, here's more of the same. Yeah.
And so honestly, you just have, for me, it's been it has to be a personal choice. What do I believe? And I can't force Shepard to lock into my personal choice, because mine was made probably for different circumstances, or mine was made based on my familiar relationships, right? And what my pregnant wife at home is doing, so I'm making decisions based on that. My 10-year-old son, who's now back in school with, teachers who refuse to put on masks. What do we do? And so those are, different things that fuel my decision that may be different than somebody else's. So for me to project on them that this is the way to do it is just, I don't believe there's enough evidence there. So it's really just has to be a personal decision.
Yeah, and like you said, when you project something heavily on people, I mean, people are gonna resist.
Most of them resist.
It's I really, one good part about where we live is that everyone we've spoken to, people that have and people that haven't been vaccinated, is we can have just a pretty good little conversation about it without anyone getting worked up or angry or excited about us. And people have their reasons, and other people have theirs. It's cool. It's okay. I mean, it's probably all right now because it's not, you know, it's not right at our door like it is for you guys. Like you're saying, your dad's sick with it. I'm sure if and when it does come here and you know, it's on the rise, it might be a very different story altogether. But yeah, we're very, like I said, we're very lucky at the moment that it hasn't played a massive part.
And so hearing you say that, right, you've almost been quarantined from the world at this point, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
When it does arrive, do you guys have any like thought process or or fear even about what it's going to look like because you hadn't been exposed?
Yeah.
But then, you know, now the open door is here and now, you know, we're not being as stringent about that. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the movement forward?
Yeah, it's a good question because so many people, I think, have just, because the state government has done quite a good job this far and pushing back on the other states saying, look, you know, we're going to keep, you guys do what you want, but we're going to keep our borders closed. And to the point where the things that are in place, people aren't doing it anymore. You know, they're not checking in when they go to the shops. They're not washing their hands. They're not. There's a complacency here now that they just think that we're just protected, and when it's never going to enter the state where if it does, it could have the potential to go that quickly through everyone because no one is doing the right thing outside of, you know, being vaccinated as well.
Gotcha.
But it's super interesting, guys. Look, I think we've had a pretty rad chat. You know, thanks so much, guys, for coming in. I know you guys you got in your studio and you got, no doubt, got more episodes you got plans with today. But look, I appreciate you guys coming in early to speak to me, so I'm not staying up until midnight. It's been so rad,
thank
guys.
you for having us, man. It means a lot to be able to kind of branch out and be out there, and you're definitely in my podcast rotation, and yeah, this has been a good time just to kind of just sit down and have a casual conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, look, you know, like I said, man, it's so almost unreal because, you know, I was sitting here listening to you guys for the last probably week, and, you know, you've been in the rotation and just sit and have a chat. And, you know, I'm sort of sitting there nodding my head today with stuff that you guys are talking about. Now we're sitting here actually talking. It's been, look, it's been so great. And, you know, thanks for even stuff you guys mentioned. You know, like I just love getting stuff out of everything I listen to, and you guys have definitely had some great inputs, you know, for me to take away from your episodes. And if you need that affirmation that you guys are on your way and you're doing the right thing, then you totally are, in my opinion, man. Like, well done. And, you know, at the end of the day, you're out there doing it, and, you know, the people you might compare yourselves to and you think you don't stand up to, I mean, you know, are they doing it? You know, good, you guys definitely are, and you're crushing it. So, you know, thanks guys.
Man.
Means a lot, man.
All right, guys. Yeah, another good episode down. The guys just were so good and open and honest, and so pleased to have them on board. And even since we recorded this episode, the guys have released a few more, and been some pretty epic conversations that they've had between themselves. I mean, they kind of throw a topic out there at the start and they really just hash into it, and you can really hear every episode the guys are growing and they're coming out more and more. I mean, Shepard's like, you know, struggling with depression and he's super guarded, but, you know, bit by bit, I think you can see it starting to come out. And man, their last episode, number 24, I think it is, on their show. It's a really powerful one. Shout out to the guys. It's super brave to bear those things, and I know how hard it is when you're dealing with those things for the first time. But you know, just so much respect for those guys for airing that stuff out there, putting it out there. And yeah, it's a great episode. If you get the chance, check out their show. It's called Deep MCs. Deep MC with apostrophe and an S, obviously meaning deep and meaningful conversations. That's on all platforms. They also do video recordings as well on YouTube. It's the same, Deep MCs. And on the socials, on Instagram and Patreon and sites like that, it is DM Convo. So check them out, get on board, support the guys. You know, they're just doing so well with what they do, and I just got so much respect for them as well. So other than that, that's it for me this week. It's been great to have you on board wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you're on the long drive or if you are traveling or whatever you're doing. You know, it's just great to be on board with you guys on as part of that adventure. So we're going to wrap this one up this week. There's a few more that I've got that I'm really excited about in the oncoming week, so please stick with me, and let's enjoy some great topics together. But otherwise, it's been great to have you again. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you're tuning in for the first time, I hope you like it, and you can check back out on some other episodes and get some more out of what is been going on. But otherwise, I'm signing off. It has been great, as always, to be in your guys' company. I appreciate you taking me along with you wherever you are. So I'm signing out, but until next time, I'll speak to you very soon. Bye.